Hi everyone, welcome to SIG Node weekly meeting February 13, 2024. We have a bunch of items on the agenda, so let's get started. So I know one of the items is important, but I think Clayton was planning to join, so we can wait a bit and start with another item. So this is the image ref discussion. So maybe we start with Vaibhav first, discussion on the eviction manager issue.
Yeah, hi folks. So this issue is regarding the eviction manager. So we tried and found that under the disk pressure eviction manager doesn't check the disk usage of dead containers. So in the issue, I have also provided the steps to reproduce it. Like there were two pods A and B. Pod A having a one running container and a of 5 GB disk space, and pod B has two containers, one living container and a one dead container of 10 GB disk space. So when we are creating the disk pressure, pod A is evicting first. So when I last discussed this in the Signal meeting, like I was asked about a KEP for this. So I have opened a KEP for that also. I have provided the link in the agenda. So it's like a basic KEP, maybe not containing the design details or test plans, etc. As I have not that much experience in this issue. So like I would like to discuss what can be the next step to resolve this issue, like how can we do that, or maybe some help from the community I need. Yeah.
Right. I see that Kevin looked at the
Yeah.
issue. Yeah.
Also, yeah, Kevin has posted some comments just before, so I will look into it and I will post the results by tomorrow of what he's asking.
Okay. All right. I think
Yeah.
Kevin, if you want to speak up, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think that at least my understanding of the eviction manager is that before we evict pods, we delete unused containers and unused images. I guess it would be worth looking into why that's not working. And for your case, I suggested some logs to search for in Kubelet to kind of verify sort of what's going on, like if those containers are still being used or something. I could have see. Sorry. Yeah. So that's at least my thought about like maybe confirming that the delete unused containers or images, because I guess what I don't quite understand with your issue is what you mean by dead containers and whether or not like are they stale or are they still being used? I think that's what's unclear to me. So I think maybe trying to understand why KEP is needed when you can't rely on the delete unused containers or whatever, I think would be helpful.
Yeah, I can check that if they are been deleting first or not, the unused containers or the dead containers we are using.
Great, thank you.
Yeah, I think we need to understand more about what's happening to figure out whether it's a change in behavior or there's some edge case bug. Uh,
Yeah.
Ryan?
Yeah, I was hoping Kevin looked at this yesterday as well. Um, the eviction manager calls into get all pods, and that function gets its pods, excuse me, from the API and doesn't really look into pod manager within the kubelet. And so that is one place that I think we need to double check that the eviction manager is using pods that it thinks are running or exited, and it might be able to enumerate that from pod worker better than the get all pods function. That's it. Just I think we should double check that part too.
Yeah, I have that. I was going to mention that a little bit later in the meeting if time, but yeah, I think generally, I think what I was looking into was I think I finally figured out the reason for the all the flakiness in our eviction tests. And effectively, when we're grabbing the summary stats, what I'm saying is the eviction manager fails to get those stats from the pods, and then they ignore sorting for usage. And the flake that we're seeing is the ranking of active pods is random, and then effectively we evict whatever we get back from that. And if we fail to display stats, then we don't really sort in the order that we expect in the test. And then that's kind of why those tests are always saying like certain pods are being killed. And it's unclear to me if it's, I don't think it's a test issue, because like if I try to add a change just to wait until those pods are there to continue on with the test, and they just never get kind of set in that way. At least I waited for 2 minutes to verify if those pods, if the summary stats and the pods will match, and they sometimes work, they sometimes don't. So there is a concern I have around the sorting for eviction. So that's at least, I posted, I think tail end of the agenda, I did mention an issue, and so I don't know if anyone has ideas on that. I would appreciate some comments on that one.
So on the eviction manager should check the disk usage of dead containers. I think generally the eviction tests within CI are not successful for disks. They're failing, and so any help looking around that would be beneficial, Murnal.
Yep. So sounds good. I don't think anyone has any live comments, but you all have shared the issue so folks can take a look and chime in there.
Yeah, I guess the question I have, this kind of blocks some of my split disk work, because I want to try to add end-to-end tests to catch this, but I'm running into existing flakiness. So then I wonder, should I go ahead and create the tests anyway? Or is it considered, like, should we block promoting this feature until we get these tests fixed?
I think we should try to get to the bottom of these failures, Kevin, because adding more tests that are flaking won't help.
Okay.
I think maybe we dig into this further and see if we find anything next week.
Yeah, I mean, I've been looking at it for the last couple weeks, so I'll keep looking. I'm just, yeah, it's definitely a tricky one. All right, well, I'll keep looking this week.
All right, thanks. So I think the next topic is Ritika. And it seems to be about adding an event for container died when container gets killed.
I think on Slack, he or she said that he or she was not able to make it. So I don't know what to do about that.
Okay, all right, thanks.
Thanks.
We can comment on the issue. So the next topic is by Pranav.
Yeah. Hello, everyone. So this is my first meeting. So allow me to give a little context of my situation here. So I'm working on working to ensure performance and reliability of Kubernetes systems for our internal projects, and so I can share the screen. So yeah, we've encountered a challenge related to Kubernetes source management. So resource management. So specifically relating to how it manages the threads. So the situation is like
Pranav, you can share. We gave you privileges if you want to share something.
Okay, sure,
Yeah.
sure. Thanks. Yeah. So I've written here. So like in case of a high workload, the threads are being allocated by the kubelets, which is normal. But when the workload is being put off, the threads aren't being released. So which leads to like lot of resources like threads and memories are being occupied by the kubelet. So this leads to a lot of inefficiency. After 2 or 3 hours post workload, still the threads are being allocated. Like I have prepared, so you can see, I for the testing purposes, I deployed this deployment. I applied it, and after running this memory script, so this is a memory script to pressurize one of the node. So after this, these are the logs. Like after some time, 32 threads were allocated, and after a few time, like 4 or 5 minutes, it increased as expected because of the workload. But even after we cancel the script, stop the script, after 2 or 3 hours, the threads were still occupied, and we can see the memory too, in case of memory too. So I was asking, like I wanted to know if we have any practices where we can limit the thread allocation for to the kubelet.
So I think this sounds like it's in the area of tuning the Go runtime, like similar to
Yeah,
garbage
like
collection.
the thread some kubelet exploits the Go runtime. It uses Go runtime for the thread allocation. So I'm eager to know, like, if there is already a system of manipulating this thread allocation.
I don't know off the top if Go max procs is gonna just do at the proc level or still stop threads. I know Andrew here on the call. Do you know off the top of any settings you might have come across?
That's me, no.
Yeah.
Off the top of my head, yeah.
So, like, there is a set max thread function. So, if I don't know much about it, I just looked into it. Let me share this again. So yeah, this is the function I was talking about. So like the default behavior is to the initial setting is to limit the threads to 10,000, but it's far greater for the efficient working. So this is the function. Anyone knows something like I can attach give a link to an issue also. There was a issue raised related to Go. Sorry. Let me provide a link to the issue.
Yeah, it would be nice if you'll describe the issue and maybe file it in GitHub, and make sure to tell what's the problem you're trying to solve. Is there some environment that is memory constrained and you trying to adjust to that, or it's just general concern?
Yeah, it's like it came from an internal team. They encountered a problem during a high workload situation, and the threads were not being released after the high workload was over, even after 2 or 3 hours. So this that was the problem because the memory wasn't available to use. So this is the issue regarding the Golang.
Yeah, I don't see us. I mean, I don't, from a quick grep, I don't see kubelet using this flag. And I think basically, as suggested, can you open an issue, a GitHub issue, and we can start from there.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Though I've just opened it now. I've just opened it like 5 minutes before joining the meeting. I've opened an issue. Let me share the link.
Yeah, if you can put it in the meeting agenda.
Yeah.
Gathering the kubelets pprofs to see where the Go routines are stuck might be useful too to attach to the issue.
Sasha has a comment regarding pinning to a CPU set, but I guess Sasha, even in that case, threads won't be restricted, right? We can test and see.
Go runtime usually calculates amount of maximum threads based on CPU
Oh, okay.
set allowed for the process. So if a kubelet, and actually it's a good practice for all system components to be running on separate CPU set, when it will be like less interference and like more pressure to kill unused threads.
Yes, I think there are variations of that. I know like in OpenShift, we have features that does that, but we don't do that upstream. Maybe that's something that can be pursued upstream as a first class feature.
Okay. So currently we don't have any feature like that. Yeah.
Yeah, it's not documented, but as Sasha said that we may want to add this as a documentation for best practices, and maybe even integrate in other systems. Somehow like enforce it or provide a sizing for it.
But I think it would be good to try it first. Like try to restrict, repeat the test, and observe.
Yeah, it's also important to understand if there are any leaks in Kubernetes. I don't think there are any. We do some testing, but if you will find actual leaks, it will be interesting to look at them. Okay, so action items to create an issue, and I'll try Sasha's proposal.
All right. Okay. So we can move on to the next topic. Peter, the image ref issue.
Hey, yeah. So we chatted about this, I think a couple of weeks ago. And the consensus here was that, so a little bit of a refresher. In Cryo, we had someone report a bug, which was an issue with the GC, image GC, where basically an incompatibility between the field that the GC manager was using to compare the image that a container is using, which is the image.id field, and the image that it was using to compare with in the CRI image response, which is image.id, like those two values, like there are many situations where they wouldn't be the same. And so the GC manager is getting confused and like failing to GC the image, or attempting to GC the image inappropriately because they didn't match up. So we made a change in Cryo that updated the image ref to be an image ID, like an ID on disk, basically, that our image library generates for each repo digest. And this is unique to the image. So this helps the image garbage collection case. Like we return this in container status, and then the GC manager is able to garbage collect. But unfortunately, this container status image ID field can be considered to be a stable API that we just broke. And we've had so far 2 downstream consumers of that API, KubeVirt and an image scanner break because we changed the semantics of this field. And so we're trying to find a way to fix it. Chatting last time, we came to the consensus that, more research was needed. And in the meantime, like maybe the behavior that we changed it to was correct. But further research has sort of illuminated a couple of things. One, that containerd is currently using the digest of the field of the image as the response to this. I don't know if the digest in that case contains the repo as well, but I know that the image ID that you're returning is the digest and not like an other generated ID. It also has come out that Clayton mentioned that the container status API like shouldn't really have been changed. So Cryo kind of just generated, like made a breaking change to users, which is true. We did break some users, but we thought that the image GC was kind of worth prioritizing. And so that might have not been the correct choice. So coming back here to sort of discuss some other options, I've listed out a couple of options in the notes, and all of them are kind of have their own downsides and kind of tricky. I think probably the best route would be like updating the CRI to, or updating the pod API and the container status CRI call to have like an image, like another resolved image ID field or something like that, where we could have a unique value that could be compared against the CRI image.id field. And then in garbage collector could use that, whereas other users could refer to the, image ID and, get the information for the repo digest that they need. But this is, something that will take until 131 and, wouldn't really be able to be backported. So another idea, which could be a short-term remediation, but wouldn't totally cover all cases, is like, maybe we update the garbage collector to, compare the correct fields, but this has a number of sort of downsides as well. So coming here, was hoping that Clayton would be around so we could chat about that, or we could get his perspective sort of here. But does anyone else have additional things to say now that we kind of have a little bit more context about this problem?
Yeah, Renal had brought this up yesterday, so we were doing some investigation of the code. It looks like we're returning the reference, the digest of the config, as opposed to of the image manifest. We changed some code 6 years ago, and that's just what we've been returning. It is still unique, the ref of the config, but it's not what you would expect. So you might want to modify by adding a couple of additional fields, if you actually need those refs.
Yeah, I think that's what we were doing. Oh no, that's what we're doing now. And what we were doing before was like returning the repo digest, and that's what ended up breaking people. So what you're saying is you have been for the last 6 years returning an ID that is not the SHA of the image from the perspective of the registry, but something that you generate on disk.
It's the SHA of the config. Every image manifest has a config as well, and that's what we're using right now, the SHA of the config, which is a part of the image manifest. So either one, any one bit in the config would have modified the image. So it is still unique.
Right.
Yeah.
And you return that ID basically in all places that you're asked for an image ID, like in a pull image, in the container status, and list, in the image status.
Right. Right. Yes. Yeah. If you do, even if you do a CDR pull, we're adding this in CRY as well, so that we know, to get the right ID. but yeah.
Right. So in this case, that means that Cryo has moved its behavior to what Containerd is currently doing, which I think maybe perhaps we copied what Docker did and Containerd didn't.
I think that's what happened, but I didn't look at the code.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So this is a tough situation where like the ambiguity in the CRI spec sort of caused this branching behavior, and the image DC manager doesn't work with the old way that Cryo was doing it. It works now with the way that Containerd and Cryo are doing it, but that means we Cryo broke our users, kind of. I mean, I do wish Clayton was here because his stance on breaking the end users is a little more dogmatic than I've heard so far. And my perspective is like they were relying on a field incorrectly because of a bug that we had, and like maybe breaking them is like the only solution.
Yeah, originally,
other than extending the CRI.
Right. Originally, what we wanted to do was for any Cry API, including containers and images and pods, when you call in, you could give a subset of the ID, and if that matches a list that we have, we keep this little index so that you can do shortcuts. As long as you give us a unique first couple of bytes of an ID, then we'll do a lookup originally. But we only implemented that on container lookups and for pod lookups. We were going to do that also in image. We didn't. So right now you're just getting the ref. What we wanted, again, we would generate a number and have that be a map. So it's not really, it shouldn't be considered a ref, right?
Right.
Yeah. So I was chatting with Clayton in the background. He can't make the call, but I think he's open to adding a new field in the status, and we can probably continue the conversation in Slack or an issue. Yeah, I think my hesitation in putting it in the status was that it doesn't really mean anything to the consumers. It will be mainly consumed by the kubelet for the GC part of it.
Yeah, and that's kind of the tricky thing is like finding an API, because the kubelet is relying on a public API for its like information that it itself has, but communicating between different components. So like theoretically, we could also wire in a direct CRI call or like a, the CRI instance, whatever, to the GC manager, and then the GC manager could directly ask the CRI rather than going through the kubelet's like pod API. But that would involve more CRI calls, and that could be worse, but it would allow us to directly access that CRI information and not expose this like resolved image ID or whatever we want to call it in the public API, which is not really relevant for anyone else. So that is an option that we have, but I do think that so Mrinal and I chatted before this call, and at that point, after hearing just Clayton's feedback, we were kind of leaning towards reverting to the change in Cryo, which fixed the GC issue, but broke the users. I now found myself wondering, Mrinal, and maybe we should talk about this as a Cryo community, but if we should not do that, because that's what, because we're now kind of matching Containerd's behavior in the interest of saving GC until we like update the CRI in 131 and like we fix the world. But
I think, Mike, didn't we check yesterday that Containerd is also returning the resolved reference for the image? And I think that was the intent of that field. So I don't think we should break that. I mean, since like Docker days, folks are relying on that field to parse and know what the actual pulled image was on a node. So I don't think we should break that anywhere. So what we'll end up doing is actually making the API more specific and adding tests so we don't regress that.
I'm just to clarify, Mike, you're saying, so when you say the image ID in the container status, is it the repository plus digest of the image that was pulled, or is it you said it's the SHA of the config, so it's like this random other hex value that like doesn't actually directly reference what was pulled, but it references what exists on disk.
It is the reference, and we can use that as the identifier to pull up the image.
Okay, so it's like the repo plus digest field. If you, let's see, I should probably just try it out in containerd or like get, you know, an ID. I'm fine with having cryo, you know, sort of conform to whatever, whatever is established. But my thought about not reverting it was I maybe misunderstood Mike when trying to figure out what value they're actually reporting, because I thought it was an ID that didn't actually directly map to a repo plus digest on a node, but it was like another ID that was hashed separately. But maybe I just need to play around with it a little bit.
It's repo digest from what I can tell.
Yeah, it's the SHA-256 of the repo digest.
Yeah, but it's a whole
So it's
thing.
not the repo.
Docker.io/library HTTPD, for example, at SHA-256. It's a pullable reference. Yeah.
Full pullable reference. Okay. So yeah, then if that's the intention of the field, then that's what we can switch it back to. And
yeah,
then
so I think
we just have to sort of investigate GC. I think we do have an immediate, because I'm pretty sure number one, containerd is also going to be susceptible to this image GC issue, if that's the case, because unless you're returning that like repo plus digest for every single image ID field.
No, it's not. I checked. I mean, we can cross check with Mike, but I was looking in the code earlier, and as far as I see, it's a config ID. So it's same as what cryo is returning. So I think someone needs to go and check if containerd is also running into the same GC issue.
Right. So, okay. Sounds like we need another round of investigation to see what containerd is doing, and then that could kind of inform. I mean, I think ultimately we do need some sort of extension to the CRI to solve this case, but it's possible that we could maybe work around it in some ways in the image GC code, and meanwhile sort of go and fix the pod status of, you know, one or both of the CRI implementations to sort of match each other.
Right. Yep. And I think we need to just make the API more tight. Right now it's loose, so we want to make sure we have tests backing it.
Cool. All right. So that's fine. We'll have, I'm going to guess that we're probably going to end up having a follow-up on this. Does anyone have anything else on this topic?
Yeah, I'm mostly worried. If we'll investigate, check how it works with mirrors as well. If image was pulled from a mirror, like what will return there?
So I think if image is pulled from a mirror, Sergey, you would hide the fact that it's pulled from a mirror, and you'll pretend it's pulled from the registry specified in the pod. At least that's how we do it on the cryo side.
I would assume that as well.
component.
I just want to make sure that it's done the same way across.
Right.
Right, but we're only returning the SHA, so it's the same value. It should be the same value from the mirror.
Yeah.
Unless you're asking about the list of digests.
So one more thing here to note, right? I don't know, like if we use the config ID in the GC, that'll be more accurate, because two repo digests could still end up referring to the same config ID. So we can still have an edge case where image GC tries to remove an image, and then the container runtime can say, oh, it's still in use.
Okay. Yeah, and another thing on similar topic, I just wanted to share this PR. I think it's from it's from Raven. This is also about images. We want to have a metric on image pool duration based on image size. There are size buckets. One note about this PR is that because of image pool return string, we cannot extend it with like any other parameter. So we need to have two API calls. So we pull first and then getting the size of an image separate call. So if we will ever need to extend what image pool will return, we can save one call for image size. And if Brunel, if you can take a look at this PR.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I'll review. Thanks.
Another thing that returns image layer.
Cool. That's it for this item then. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Peter. So I think we covered the next one by Kevin. The next is one from Dikshita. Are you on the call?
Yes. So I just want to highlight that we have this meeting, SIG Node CI triage every Wednesdays 10 a.m. PST, in which we triage the bugs and the test failures. So we are looking for some more help there. If people who are interested or who are new can help us triage the issues and test failures, it will be really great. And also wanted to highlight one of the bugs from the last meeting. It's about someone's research that they did um, around the deleted containers not being interrupted from downloading the images. So what they were trying to do is they had a pod in which they were trying to download a huge image, and while the image was being downloaded, the pod was deleted, but the container runtime did not know anything about that, and it continued to download the image. And the research mentioned that this could be a potential reason for a DOS attack where the download queue is completely occupied and the node resources are wasted. So they are trying to do something around that. So just wanted to highlight that this is an interesting issue that we came across in the
Okay.
SIG Node CI triage meeting, and there are more such things that we discussed there. So looking for some more help there. That's all.
Okay. So I think for this particular issue, can we cancel the context of the pull when we delete a container and pass it through to the pull image?
Yeah,
I'm not sure if anyone
commented on this issue. So the same DOS attack can be achieved by not canceling pods at all, but having really small pods scheduled with huge images, and they just keep downloading it. And we have parallel image pool, and the value is typically like in single digits, like 2, 3. So 10 of the pods can completely block the node from doing anything. I think this researcher is suggesting that if pod get deleted, then it's a good indication that we can cancel the download.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. So at least we can I think go fix that particular part, right? If it's deleted, we cancel the download.
Yeah, I think it will worth to do through the cap, just to make sure we're not breaking anything. But I don't know, maybe it's just a bug fix. But we marked it as a feature right now.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind that. I think makes sense to make sure we don't break anything.
We heard complaints like that before in GKey when some like pods that scheduled first had a bad registry configured and they just timing out and never let anything else to initialize. So it's worth looking into, but I don't know if anybody has energy right now. So anybody on the call, if you're interested to investigate and give it a shot, please take it over.
Maybe use pod priority to preempt image pulls. If a higher priority pod is coming in, it gets download first.
Yeah, other interesting ideas maybe depending on the size of the image, have only one like large image in the image pool download, and everything else leave for medium and small size images.
Yeah.
If I understand correctly,
Downloading
this
two large images simultaneously is not a good idea anyway.
so this issue we can duplicate it in a local lab cluster, correct?
Yeah, it should be able to replicate it. Yeah.
Okay, I could give it a try.
Thank you.
Okay, I think we reached the end of agenda for today.
All right. Thanks for joining, folks. A reminder, like the code freeze is on 6th of March, so we don't have a lot of time. So if you got your enhancements merged, it's time to get the code merged as well. Yeah.
May I ask a question? I've been working with something like with this in-place pod vertical scaling, and I think I have a patch that might enable it to work with CPU isolated CPUs, because I have seen that it is an issue in the in-place pod vertical scaling, and I think I have a patch that might help it. Can you please advise how should I proceed? Should I add it in the agenda, give you a demo? Should I push a PR? How should I do it?
I think maybe I suggest starting with adding it to the agenda and going over it maybe next week. I know there was another team, Han Kang. They were looking into fixing issues in the in-place side, so maybe it will be good to get them on the same page as well. So I would start with an agenda and then take it from there, just to make
Okay.
sure we are not duplicating efforts and we are working together.
Okay, I do. Thanks.
There's also a, thanks to Nindixa, I think she created a Slack to kind of coordinate work around the in-place pod scaling. Maybe, so some people are grouped up there if you want to post that, questions you have.
Okay, but because I changed the code in the CPU manager in this policy static, then I was wondering, is this group will also check the CPU manager code?
I think this group is the right one for that.
Excuse me, I didn't hear.
I think, sorry, maybe did not hear your question, but I think this group is responsible in that area.
Okay, the SIG node in place, you mean?
Yes.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, thank you. Any more questions? Not, we can finish now. Thank you, everybody.
All right. Hey,
Bye.
thanks.